and my method of working. Let me just double check that we are live. Gitas, if you don't mind putting it on the screen for me, just so we can check that we are live.
You might just need to do your instruction again, Johnny.
Okay.
We're not live. We are now.
Perfect. Okay. So, welcome to Allilon Unplugged number 17. Today, I've got a beautiful model, and I'm going to do a great shape for you. I want to do something quite soft, okay? I want to do something very pretty looking, and something that we could use in the salon straight away tomorrow morning. So if you look around me in the room, you can see we've got a nice audience here of people who have been on our course today. Guys, say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. We're live in Lithuania. It's our first time doing an Allilon Unplugged in Lithuania. If you focus back on here now, I'm going to show you my first sectioning pattern. So I'm going to start by taking diagonal sections like this, and I'm going to work up the head to the top of the ear, to this area here, okay? My number system is going to be 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4. So I'm going to get a little bit longer and a little slightly heavier. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be starting from here, my sectioning pattern. If you come around here for me, you stay here, and I'll play to you. And my sectioning pattern will be slightly diagonal, okay? And I'm going to keep the hair at a reasonable length because I want the hair to have some movement to it. So look at the skin, look how flexible that is, okay? So I don't want to go too tight on the skin. I want it to be a bit looser. And I'm going to basically cut a triangular cutting line. And that will be my initial guide. Every section is going to be diagonal, like this, okay? And I'm going to basically elevate the hair slightly. And my cutting line will slowly change to a slightly shorter shape internally and slightly longer externally. So it will still be triangular, but it will be much softer and much more of a fluid shape, okay? My sectioning pattern is diagonal, closer to vertical than it is to horizontal.
So what does that mean, John?
In what sense, Jonathan?
So you're working closer to vertical than you are horizontal. So what does that mean?
Okay, so basically, by working slightly more closer to the vertical, what you find is that you tend to have a much greater control over the vertical shape. So in this scenario, I want to be mindful and have much more control over my vertical shape. If I was to work slightly more towards the horizontal, I would have a greater control over my horizontal shape. So I'm combing the hair once and cutting the hair once. And for those of you who are following Allilon and have been following Allilon for a while, you'll know that we call that kokomo, which is comb once, cut once and move on. Okay? And the idea behind that is that if you have to cut the same piece of hair twice, technically you cut it wrong the first time. So the focus should be to comb the hair once, cut it once, and then move on.
So we're starting to get quite a lot of thumbs up.
Cool.
People joining. We've got Catherine,
Cool.
Pennington, we've got Ingrid, Waterloo, we've got Costantino from back home, we've got Sandor.
Welcome guys, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please feel free to share the video if you'd like to. All you've got to do is press the share button, which is on the left hand side of the screen, the bottom. Now obviously we're filming live from Lithuania. This is day three of our primary shapes course here. And what we've got to do is we've got to try to explain to the audience that are watching, as well as the audience that are in the room, our number system and how we're working our shape, okay?
Josh Lamonica says hi, John.
Hi mate, welcome. Okay, so our sections, again, they're still diagonal, but they're closer to vertical. And I've got another, maybe 2 more sections and then I'm done. And I'm going to start to work on another zone. So I'm working shorter internally to longer externally. Now we've got quite fine hair, but by the choices of lengths in which I'm choosing, the hair should hopefully at the end of the shape feel it has a lot more movement and a lot more bounce. And when I finish the haircut, I'm going to finish it quite loosely. So it's not going to be iron, dead straight. I don't want it to feel lifeless. I want the hair to feel like it's got a soul to it. Okay. Last section. Again, combing it to the previous section. So 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, and so forth.
So John, in your section that you're using at the moment, the diagonal section closer to the vertical, you've got 3 key factors. Can you explain which key factors you're using at the moment?
Of course. So obviously I'm elevating the hair in my fingers. So that's one factor that I'm using. Before I carry on, I just want to focus on what I'm about to do. What I want to do now is I want to put a bit of a line into the shape. So I'm going to comb the hair down to the natural fall. Okay. Give my angle of my comb, which will give me the angle of the cutting line. I'm going for a slightly triangular cutting line. And I'm cutting the external shape at natural fall. I'm not worried about the strength of the line because I'm going to soften it anyway after. But the idea is we have a shape which is slightly soft and has an element of movement to it. Okay? So in this scenario, my internal shape was cut first, and then I'm cutting the external shape. And the external shape, I'm cutting it through the wide end of my comb, so I have a minimal amount of tension. And then I'm now going to work into zone 2, which is in front of the ear. So to answer your question, John, going back to your question, I was using elevation as one factor. I was using a cutting line, obviously to create the shape. And I was also using an element of over direction. The way you can see that is by the number system. So it was 2 to 1, 3 to 2, and 4 to 3, and so forth. So I was over directing down to the previous section. Now I'm going to work on the area in front of the ear. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to elevate the hair up, and I'm going to try and strengthen the ends of the hair by cutting a round cutting line. So it's slightly softer, and I'm keeping an element of length around the jawline. And my sectioning pattern is diagonal. My number system is going to be working on the base. So it's 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so forth. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, please let me say thank you for joining us. And I truly hope you enjoy watching us on our Allilon Unplugged. Please feel free to share it if you're enjoying it. Press the share button on the bottom left, and please feel free to ask me any questions you want. The more interactive we make this, the more information I can give, and I really want to be challenged I want to be able to concentrate on my hands and what I'm doing with my hands, but also I want to give you as much information as I possibly can. So please feel free to ask me any questions you like.
Do you know Pedronchenko?
I do know Pedronchenko.
Pedronchenko, John.
Cool. Welcome, Peddy.
And then we have Morton Johnson.
Yes. Hello, Morton.
Best regards to Davos, Lithuania, Jonathan Johnny.
Oh, bless him.
From Bergen.
From Norway.
Hey, Morton. We've got Patricia. Ian, we've got Pedro's laughing. We've got Patricia. Is it Timmerman? She's in. We have got Tony Sadiq, he's in. We've got Dara, Stephanie Smith from Pittsburgh in. We've got Carol Kozlowski as well. So we've got 158 viewers at the moment. So we're getting quite a lot of love.
Welcome.
Also, Paul Simberg's just joined. I think Ped's on his way home from Holland. So he's saying he's on our way home.
Yeah, so Ped's just been in Holland doing a primary shapes course out there. We're in Lithuania doing a primary shapes course out here. And what I'd like to do actually is perfect timing to discuss a little bit about the primary shapes course, a little bit about the Allilon language of hair, and a little bit about what the primary shapes course is designed to do. So we're here in Lithuania, in Davos, Lithuania, with the fantastic Mr. Kitotas. Mr. Kitotas. So I call him Kitutas. Kitotas. fantastic young man, a great ambassador for Allilon and for Davines. Very passionate about education. One of my favourite distributors to work with. I'm not just saying that because he's in the room and because I'm in his academy. I'm actually mean that. So we've been here for 3 days now. This is going to be our 4th day and our last day tomorrow. Tomorrow is exam day for the students. So they should be at home studying, but instead, obviously, we're keeping them here to watch the Allilon Unplugged. But we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. Okay, so I've cut those sections through there, and you can see what it does. It gives me like a kind of soft, flowy shape, and because of my disconnection, in other words, these two areas here have no technical connection to them. Okay, so basically what I've enabled myself to do is I've enabled it to visually look like a connected classic shape, but we know that technically it's not. And all I'm going to do now is just groom the hair behind the ear. Really focus on the grooming. Really, really important. Super clean, super detailed. And then just put a tiny bit of pressure on the hair. Nothing too heavy. Just secure the hair and just take away any excess. Okay? And what will happen is that will end up becoming just a really beautiful little layered shape. And by leaving it behind the ear like this, it will dry because of the warmth of the ear. It will all dry into position. So cut it, comb it into position, and then leave it into that shape.
You're going to use any cutting lotion today, John?
I will do. Yeah, I've already used a lot of Day Day prior to my cutting. Day Day is the Davines cutting lotion, which I love to use. And for those of you who don't know what it looks like, I'll show you in a minute when I go to the other side, because I'm going to end up using it again.
Andy says hi, John. So looking good.
Hey, Andy. So, just dusting and tidying up my external shape. Comb it once forward and then leave it. Just let it dry by itself. Don't over dry it, don't over style it, because the head will release the heat and it will do the work for me. Okay? And that's basically what the shape will look like.
So John, something that we've touched on over the last 3 days and something that's been, you know, really important for us when we're going away teaching is obviously counting our sections. Is it important to count the sections when you're working with different zones of disconnections?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, there's lots of different reasons why. Come in this side a bit more. There's lots of different reasons why you would count your sections. Okay, some of the main reasons are to do with being able to understand where your mistakes have happened. When you count sections, basically what you're doing is you're understanding 2 things. You're understanding either the movement of the guide or the movement of the hair being introduced to the guide. That's in effect what it's showing you, your number system. Okay? So the reason why it's important to use it is because it helps you understand your elevation and your over direction. But also, if you make a mistake, you can just count back your number system and know where the mistake happened. So, there. Really spray the hair through. Don't be scared to use it. You can't overload the hair with Day Day. It's a brilliant cutting lotion. Wet the hair down. Keep it super, super clean, yeah? Really, really important. I can't stress to you how important it is. Good. Okay, groom the hair over the ear. You can see I'm actually using the ear as my sectioning clip rather than actually using a sectioning clip. You shouldn't have to use clips unless you're working with very, very long, thick hair. Then sometimes, obviously, that needs to happen. Okay, so I've gone from the crown now, across the crown to the back of the ear. Okay, now I'm going to come through my shape, again, from the same point in the back. I'm going to take a diagonal section, secure the hair with my fingers like this, groom all the hair from the root. That way you're working super clean. Very, very, very important. I can't stress to you how important that is. If you groom all the hair in one direction, then my number system on this side will be the same. Now I'm not worried about all this stuff because this stuff is the outline, which I'm going to be cutting off shortly. I'm focused more on the angle of the cutting line internally.
What's your comb of choice, John?
I'm using the Allilon Buoy, the green Buoy. It's my favourite comb to use. The reason why is because it's a sesibomb, and it's a carbon, so basically it stops the hair from becoming static. It's one of my favourite combs to use. It gives me a nice element of tension. It gives me good control. It's my favourite comb to use. I do like the Buoy combs too, but this is my favourite cutting comb to use. So now I'm working across the head with diagonal sections again. But as I'm working, you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to start to change slightly more my cutting angle. Okay, so I'm going to gently tilt the head over to the side like this. That way I don't have to bend my spine. Okay, I'm going to groom the hair through. And my cutting angle is going to become more and more triangular. So I'm really going to go a lot tighter on the inside of the shape on this side of the head. Okay, and the reason for that is because we're going to be wearing a side parting with more hair on this side of the head. So by working the underneath slightly shorter on this side, it will enable me to basically get a bit more movement through here and a bit more volume through this side.
So I've got a great question from Tony, John. Tony says, when's Allilon going to open an academy in America?
That's a good question, not just for you, but for Jonathan, because Jonathan wants to run it. Jonathan and Sam want to go over to America at some point. So there will be I'm sure there will be an opportunity. Who asked that question?
Tony said he.
Tony, great question, my friend. Thank you for asking that question. It's a bit of an awkward one, if I'm honest, and I'll explain to you why. Me and Pedro talk about what it is that we want with the company, and we talk about it quite a lot. And we obviously talk to our team about it, our directors. And one thing that's really important is that, we don't want to be the biggest education company in the world. We want to touch as many people as we can, but we don't physically want to be the biggest education company in the world. We just want to be one of the most respected. And the way to do that is to try and touch as many people as we can and inspire as many people as we can. Growing a business, I don't know if you have a salon or what kind of company you might have, Tony, but growing a business for us, for me and Ped, is about being safe, being consistent, maintaining standards, growing in a healthy way. Obviously we have a lot of people who are reliant on us. We've got quite a big team now, so it's really important that when we grow our business, we grow in a safe and logical way. We will at some point potentially have an education centre or a space maybe in the States, but at the moment there isn't any key timing on it. If it's meant to be, it will be. If it's not meant to be, it won't be. But we will be doing a lot of education over there in satellite locations, usually Davines academies or Davines salons. So keep an eye out. And when we're going to be in the area, in the States somewhere, we'll obviously let you guys know. And you can jump on board. Oh. Okay. So you can see that the hair just then, if you carried on cutting it, you wouldn't be in control. So you need to always be in control. So work super clean, comb it once, cut it once. Remember, you shouldn't have to cut the same piece of hair again. Okay, and if you notice, every single time I'm moving my body, so I'm starting here, and then every time I'm moving my body slightly and changing the angle of my cutting line. So in effect, I'm doing this. Okay, so I'm going to be going tighter inside the crown area. Okay, right.
So would you say that you're going to be increasing in the amount of elevation that you're using, John, in that area?
Yes, I would definitely say it that way. My focus is to reduce the length in the crown, to give me a little more freedom, but maintain the length on the external shape. And by working and moving my body, I'm allowing my shape to go slightly tighter around the crown area. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. There's no such thing as a silly question. And the chances are if you're thinking it, somebody else is probably thinking it too. Notice how the angle of my fingers, starting off slightly parallel to the section, and then as I work into the shape and I'm elevating slightly higher, my fingers then change direction slowly and move away from the head so I can go in tighter around the crown. I'm starting to work, as I'm working higher up now, I'm starting to work on the outside of my fingers. And what should happen is my shape will slowly have this beautiful freedom around the crown. We don't want it to feel like a short hairstyle. We want it to feel like a longer shape, but at the same time we want it to give the impression of lots of kind of natural bounce to it. So again, as I work higher up, I slowly move the hair to the outside of my fingers. That way I tend to be elevating slightly more. I am still using my guide.
Good. Can you explain a little bit about tension, John? Because obviously you're going from the inside of your fingers to the outside of things. Does the tension change, or is it just that you're going to be focusing on the skin more? Or?
Good question, John. Was that one of yours, or someone asked that question?
Yeah, that was one of mine.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. So I don't personally, the only time I tend to edit my tension is when I'm working around the hairlines. Other than that, I tend to work with quite a lot of tension in general. My fingers are quite stocky, so I've got quite good tension in regards to my technique. So I'm quite lucky like that. So I don't really focus necessarily on the amount of tension. It's more about the consistency of the tension, which is really the key when you're working shape.
I can see that you're coming to the wall, towards the end of zone number 3, John, and quite a few people are joining us. So do you think you'd just be able to have a quick recap of what you've done so far?
Of course. Let me bring the attention to what I'm doing right now, which is I'm doing the external shape. And notice now that I'm starting to use a chipping technique, okay? And the reason for that is because I don't want to use a club cutting technique, because I don't want the outline to be so solid. So what I'm doing is I'm using small tiny triangles, which creates a solid but slightly shattered line. Okay, so this technique is called chipping. Okay, and chipping is basically a way of creating a solid but slightly shattered line. You can do it like this through the comb and the scissor. So rest the back of your scissor and the back of the comb, and you can use the comb as like a ruler if you want. Okay, like that. And what that does, it just enables the shape to sit quite heavy, but nothing too aggressive. Okay, so for those of you who are joining now, let me just do the same on the other side, so that I get that nice bit of freedom on the edge. For those of you who are joining now, thank you very much for joining in, and hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'll try and talk a bit louder because we're in a beautiful academy space in Lithuania, which has got quite high ceilings, so the sound can get lost, so I'll try and talk as loud as I can. Right, what did I do so far? So I started off by taking a side parting from the corner of the recession to the top of the crown, then from the crown down to the bottom of the back of the neck, just off centre. Then I started with diagonal sections, elevating the hair every time. 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4. And I worked basically up to where the top of the ear was. That gave me, it's a shape that looks quite heavily graduated, but technically it was slightly layered because I was going slightly flatter every time. Then I came around the front hairline with a diagonal section working on the base with a round cutting line. So technically here behind the ear there's no connection. And then if you notice, I've left it behind the ear. And the reason why I left it behind the ear is because the heat from the ear will dry the hair, and I don't want it to have any kind of definition or strength to the line. I want it to feel really soft and kind of flicky. So that gives me that element of softness to the shape, you see. That becomes a really pretty little shape. And because of the outline, I cut it quite soft. Again, it gives me that soft freedom to it. Okay, then I came through the opposite side. So if you come around this side of Iveta more. Thank you. We've got Iveta filming, guys, and we've got Jonathan asking and communicating what you guys are communicating. So thank you guys for doing that for me. Right, then I came through the third zone. So zone 1 was diagonal sections, everything to the previous, elevating the hair. Zone 2 was diagonal sections, round cutting line, working on the base. Zone 3, which is the second portion of the haircut on this side, basically is diagonal sections, combing it out, slowly, elevating every section, okay? Lifting the hair up, going slightly more rounder internally. Sectioning pattern basically moved around the head like so.
Guys, can I just ask you a question for those who's watching? Could you just give us some thumbs up and some love just to see that we're still live? Because we're just in the academy space and yeah, we've got a lot of thumbs up. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Lots of thumbs up.
We keep losing reception sometimes. So
clarified. Josh has clarified it. We're good.
Alright. So from here now, I'm going to come across the crown, again through to the recession area. Okay. Separating the hair out nice and clean, grooming the excess hair out the way. Very important, super clean, okay? So technically, I've got like a triangular area of disconnection through the top, okay?
I'll just quickly, just got a question from Stacey Binder.
Okay.
She just said, can you explain again about the rounding of the comb? Thanks.
The rounding of the comb?
Yeah.
Okay. You okay? Do you
was that when you was cutting the external shape, or was that?
Could have been, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, do you want a glass of water? Can we get a glass of water, please, from somebody? Thank you. Okay. So the question was from who? Stacey, did you say?
Yeah, Stacey Binder.
Okay. Hi, Stacey. Thank you for asking me a question. Right. So in regards to the rounding of the comb, I think what you were talking about is the when we were cutting the outline a minute ago. So what I'm basically doing is I use the comb as a ruler to basically establish, to guarantee my line, okay? And the comb is a really good tool to use to check your balance, and it's a really good tool to use to basically control your external shape and your internal shape. Okay, I'm going to use some Day Mist again.
Got a really nice compliment from Chelsea. She said, I've done what I've learned from you and got the best results and responses lately. That's a nice comment, John.
That's really good. From Chelsea?
Yeah.
Oh, bless her. Okay. So, now I'm going to come through the side. Now this side I'm going to go slightly tighter, okay? So I'm going to work diagonal sections again. But if you watch really carefully, the angle of my cutting line is going to be slightly more triangular rather than round. So I'm going to stand in front of the haircut, okay? And I'm going to elevate the hair up, and I'm going to go slightly tighter. So I'm working shorter internally to longer externally. And what that will do is it's going to give me a nice bit of freedom to the shape. Notice the length that I've chosen, again, it's around the jaw, okay? So it will, at the end, it will look like a kind of bobby type shape, but technically, obviously, it's not. Diagonal sections again, and my number system is going to be on the base again. So 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so forth. This is a really beautiful shape. Chelsea, if you can, if you have a customer that comes in, or anybody watching, obviously, and they want something a little bit interesting, they have got finer hair, but they want movement and they want freedom. And this is a really nice technique to use because you get a sense of movement, you get a sense of freedom to the haircut, and because of the choices of lengths that you're choosing, even though it's quite fine hair, you can't really tell because of the way that all the layers will sit.
So John, we've got nearly 600 people watching.
Oh, fantastic.
We've got about 4,500 views so far.
Perfect.
I've
Very
got a
nice.
question for you.
Okay.
When you're moving with your sectioning pattern, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, how do you ensure to go exactly to the previous section and not to go from 3 to 1, for example?
Good question. Very good question. Who asked that question?
That's from Carol.
Brilliant question.
Kozlowski.
Okay, Carol, great question. I love that question. And let me tell you the key to that. Often when people are working, they are so focused on the hair that they're about to cut that they're forgetting the hair that they've previously cut. So when you're working with a number system, which is to the previous, i.e. 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, and so forth, the key is not just to focus on the hair that you've cut or going to cut, it's to allow yourself to drop sections away. So, in other words, when you're going 3 to 2, you don't need section 1 in your hand. And that's the problem people have. People don't drop sections. They end up keeping the sections in their hand and end up using the wrong guide. So don't be scared to drop sections. You should only ever really need 2 sections in your hand when you're cutting hair. The only time you will need more than 2 sections in your hand is if you're working a triangular shape, which means that everything, for example, is moving to one specific number. So if it was, let's just say for talk's sake, you did 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, and then you decided you all of a sudden wanted to get much, much longer. You would then do 5 to 4, 6 to 4, 7 to 4, 8 to 4. So basically you'd only need section 4 in your hand. So 3 and 2 and 1 would be irrelevant. You wouldn't need that in your hand. But as you increase your sections, you'd obviously have more than 2 sections in your hand. I hope that that makes sense to you. In effect, to simplify it, you only ever need the guide and the hair that you're introducing in your hand. Unless you're working a triangular shape where you would need multiple sections within your hand. Very good question. I love that question. So like now, I'm working on the base, aren't I? So technically, I don't need the previous sections. I only literally need the last section that I cut. And again, triangular cutting line. And this is going to give me loads of freedom in my shape. Good.
So Ben joined us from San Diego, John.
Hey Ben, what's happening?
Ryan saying so many tips, amazing guys, thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
Kim Franklin joined from South Africa.
Cool. Please feel free to share it, guys, because the more people we can get sharing these videos, the more people we can connect to, and the more we can grow this community and try and really, especially if you've got young assistants in your salon, get them to kind of watch it, because it's fantastic for younger people who don't really have a lot of access to education to have this kind of opportunity to share with us what we're doing.
And we've got Dorville from Lithuania asking if she can be a model for you. She said she's never seen anyone cutting hair so thorough. Can't stop watching these videos, so impressive. A little bit silly, but she asked if it would be possible to catch you here and you can cut her hair whilst you're here.
Tomorrow we're flying home tomorrow, so the answer isn't going to be a no, unfortunately, this time. But maybe the next time I'm in Lithuania, we're going to be coming. We're doing a fantastic show in October. Gitatus?
Yes.
22nd of October, is that correct?
You're telling the secrets now.
Okay, I'm not supposed to tell you, so we're not doing a show in Lithuania, and it's not on the 22nd of October. Okay?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and if people want to buy tickets, Gita, what do they do?
They go just to that page on Facebook or on that page where there is a Davines.
Okay, so they go onto the Davines Lithuania page on Facebook, and if you communicate through there, you'll be able to purchase tickets if you'd like to buy tickets. Also, we are doing some education in New Zealand. I know that we've had people comment on previous Facebook Lives about Australia and New Zealand. For those of you who are watching, who are from that region, we are doing a course in New Zealand, which is quite close, obviously, to Australia. So if you'd like to join that, you can email info@alliloneducation.com, and we can put you in touch with the relevant people to make it happen for you.
Sam Ann's saying, John, when are you coming to Hong Kong?
Oh, mate, invite me. I'd love to come to Hong Kong. I would love to go to Hong Kong. Hong Kong is somewhere I'd love to come. I'd love to go to Japan. I've never been there before. I'd love to go to Thailand. I think that'd be incredible. Just because I'd love to sleep on a beach for a night.
Morella's saying that you're coming to Romania anytime soon?
We don't have any plans, but you never know. You never know, actually. I was having a talk with a friend of mine, Andrea, the other day, and she was saying to me that Romania could definitely be an area where there was an interest. So you never know. Okay, so I've cut my second zone now, and you can see I've got like basically it's quite a pretty little shape. It looks graduated, even though it's layered, because obviously it's following the contour of the head. And when I dry this, I'm not going to get it dead straight. I want to dry it quite loosely, so it has like a really salon-friendly finish to it. Okay. So I'm not worried about the external shape yet. I'm not worried about how clean this is yet. Because once I've dried it, I'm going to iron literally just the external shape a little bit and just make sure that's perfect before I carry on. Okay, final zone. And then I'm going to blow dry. This is going to be quite a short Allilon unplugged tonight because the hair we have is quite fine in texture, so we don't need to over complicate the shape. With my top zone, I do want to keep this quite long. She's got incredible lips. We were talking on the plane actually. So me and Jonathan were on the plane coming over to Lithuania, and you were sitting next to us on the plane.
Well, I was going to be sitting next to you on the plane.
Yeah, you were supposed to be. And then what happened basically is we started talking about hair, me and Jonathan, talking about different things, and then you were listening to our conversation, didn't you? And then we started chatting, and then I asked her if she wouldn't mind modelling for us. So we were very lucky to have you free today to come and do some hair modelling for us. So we're cutting the final zone, which is this top area, and I'm going to keep it quite simple, this top zone. I'm going to have it so it overhangs my shape slightly. So I'm going to work sections from left to right, okay? And I do want it to be like a sweepy, long, kind of soft feeling to it. So we know that the hair on this side of the head is slightly shorter than the hair on this side of the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this side length slightly longer, and I'm going to go slightly shorter on this side of the crown. So my cutting line, in effect, will be triangular, but it will be working from shorter on the left-hand side to longer on the right-hand side.
So John, Michael Sutherland's asking us, when are we next in the States?
We're going to be doing a bit of a tour of the States soon, actually. We're going to be doing, I think it's San Fran, where is it? We're doing Chicago, we're doing San Fran, and we're doing LA and somewhere else, I can't remember, top of my head.
I know we're going to Chicago, aren't we?
Yeah, we're doing a primary shapes course in Chicago, which I'm really looking forward to. I love going to Chicago. Just back to this quickly, I'm going to be over directing everything to section 1. So my number system is 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, and so forth. And my cutting line is triangular, working from shorter on the left-hand side to longer on the right-hand side.
So Krista's with us, and she's put the dates out for Allilon in New Zealand.
Cool.
After the 12th, and she's got her contact details there. There's 2 spots left, so if anyone wants to jump on that, then if you contact her at Louisa Hair at gmail.com, and then she'll be able to look after you from there, guys. All right?
Sounds good.
So John, where do you get your energy levels, your inspirations, or for teaching? Where do you get your your energy levels from? Your excitement and your love and your passion for what we do?
Is that from you, John?
No, that's from Gitas.
Oh, Gitas.
If it was from me, would you not like that question? Did you see the look that he's having?
I will, because you know what I'm like. I'll definitely answer that question. Let me just quickly go back to the original question about the American tour. So we are going to be doing a bit of a tour around different states. If you are interested in finding out where we're going to be, and if you want to join into one of the courses, please email info@alliloneducation.com. I also know that for the people who have been previously watching, I know you've been emailing us, thank you. You are on a mailing list, I promise. And in November, we're going to be doing an event. The venue is not confirmed yet, that's why we haven't got in touch with you. But we will be getting in touch with you. We have got quite a big mailing list now of about 60 to 70 people. So we will be emailing you and letting you know where we are, how much the tickets are for the courses and so forth. And if you want to join in, you're more than welcome to come along. So what makes me passionate about teaching? Yeah, honestly?
Quickly, just before, I just want to jump in because Annalise, I'm sorry, I haven't seen your request to be a model for Johnny. So I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring you. It was just I missed it. So if you do want to be a model for Johnny, maybe what you can do is send Johnny a message via Facebook, and then
We'll see what we
if
can
we're
do.
in that part of the world or wherever you are, then maybe one day you'll be able to model for us. So I'm sorry for ignoring you, it wasn't intentional.
So, I've cut my shape. I'm going to blow dry my shape now. And then I'm going to iron just little bits of areas. Product-wise, I'm going to use some oil milk, okay, from Davines, oil milk. Just literally with this, it's quite a heavy product. Just 1, 2, 3, and 4. Not too many sprays of that because it's quite a heavy product. I'm also going to use your hair assistant. And I'm going to use this product mainly at the root because I want there to be a nice bit of bounce in the hair. And this is a brilliant product to give the hair a little bit of bounce. So just put it mainly at the roots.
So Charlotte Hamilton's asking, has the girl allowed him to do whatever he wants? I think that's a no, because if he was allowed to do anything he wants, I think it would be a lot shorter than this.
Yeah, no. It would definitely be a lot shorter than what I'm doing. But, you know, it's not about that. It's about sometimes, you know, making people happy and not being selfish and doing just what you want to do. In this scenario, I've got a beautiful girl with some fixed analysis. My fixed analysis in this scenario, and if I just explain to you what fixed analysis is. So fixed analysis is the analysis that you're making to determine what things you can't change. So choices of length, previous haircut, head shape, things like that, whether she wears glasses or not. I've used a little bit of oil in my haircut, just to give me some shine, okay? And I'm going to use my ceramic vest brush.
We're up to 770 people.
That's nice. So I'm going to use my vest brush, and I'm going to basically dry the hair with a bit of looseness. I don't want it too straight. Yeah? I'm not trying to get it looking Japanese straight. I want it to be quite soft and quite movable. So I'm going to allow the hairdryer to do all the work for me. Okay. Now I don't want to use a nozzle for 2 reasons. One, that I don't want direct heat, and I'm going to start my blow dry. You always start your blow dry where the hair has the most movement. So in this scenario, I have the most movement at the nape area, and I'm going to wrap dry the hair dryer facing down the hair at all times, and I'm going to keep the hair dryer moving constantly. Hair dryer facing down the hair, and I'm not trying to over style the hair. I want it to be quite loose. I don't want it to look too structured, hence why my technique allowed me that bit of freedom. So even though I'm brushing the hair upwards, can you see the hair dryer is facing down, even though my brush is going upwards. And what that will do is, even though I'm brushing the hair up, which can give some rootness on the shape, don't forget I use the raw hair assistant to help me create a bit of natural bounce. But the haircut should do all the bounce movements for me. I'm not trying to over dry the hair. I want the haircut to do all the work. Okay? Heat the hair up. Dry the hair as much as you can. Stress it through. And what you'll see is the hair will have a sense of natural bounce to it, mainly because of the shape and the choice of length.
So James asking this one.
Who is, sorry?
James is asking us, he's saying, what are the important factors you need to bear in mind when deciding to cut in zones?
Okay, good. Very good question. Who's got Jade?
Yeah, Jason.
Great question. Okay, so when you're working slightly more creatively like I am today, okay, what's important is that the zones work in harmony. Okay, so I don't want it to look like there's lots of areas of disconnection, even though technically there is. And the way to do that is to have the lengths similar in length. So if the lengths are completely different and you're sitting them side by side, the danger is that you end up basically looking too disconnected and a bit too creative. So what the key to making the zones work is to have similar lengths, and ideally to place your disconnection cleverly to fill gaps. So in my haircut, obviously, by using the shape that I use, I'm filling in the gaps over the ears.
So would you say that the hairlines really dictated where you kind of move the weight around the head? Like that?
Definitely to a certain degree, you could definitely bring the hairline into the conversation. But ideally, my plan is to try and give the hair, make it look a lot thicker than it actually is by choosing the right lengths that allow a bit of natural bounce in the hair. So I'm using the vest brush to basically dry the hair through. And then right at the end, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a paddle brush to loosen it up even more, so I don't get any kind of set feeling to the shape. And the paddle brush, ideally, will smooth the cuticle out a bit more for me, but it will also stop the hair from feeling way too bouncy or way too fake in its blow dry.
So basically, we've had a question asking for the next final shape in Lithuania. In September.
In Lithuania,
yeah.
it does?
September the 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. So, do we know if the course is full at the moment, or? I think it's myself and Graham, isn't it, that's going to be coming out. We've got availability, yes, we've still got availability, so maybe if we contact
Governor's Lithuania.
Governor's Lithuania through Facebook?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So I'm just gently now tension drying the hair slightly, and I'm focused a little bit on the external shape a little bit, because it has got a little bit of extra movement. So I'm tension drying, and then every time you dry, you brush the hair into position. That's the key to the hair setting where you need it to set.
We've got a lot of people saying this time's better for everyone in Asia.
This particular time?
Yeah, saying this time that we've got today's better. Everyone's obviously staying awake to watch it.
Oh. Yeah.
We're getting quite a few requests to see if we can actually recut the shape, but I'm guessing once it's dry you can probably go through that one.
Definitely.
We've got Anton from we joined. John, nice to see you still practicing.
We never stop, my friend, we never stop. We never stop practicing. The moment you start thinking you're done, mate, you are done. It's over. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, I've dried the hair. I'm going to iron just literally the external shape a little bit, but I don't want it to feel too heavy. I don't want the shape to lose this kind of natural swing to it. And all I'm going to do is basically gently iron the hair to close the cuticle a little bit, and then
Starting to look beautiful, isn't it?
yes, we're getting there. And every time you move it, it will have this kind of sense of softness and freedom to it. All the lengths will kind of work in. It needs to look like one shape, like one haircut, even though technically, as we know, it's definitely not.
I'm trying to have a little recap while you're ironing it through, or?
Yeah, what I'll do is let me just double check the shape. So I don't have to iron it, to be fair. I could leave it quite soft, but I'll iron it a little bit just on the external shape, just so I can double check that external shape a little bit. Okay, so how did I cut my haircut? Let me fill you in how I did it. I started by taking a side parting on the left hand side, and I went from the parting, I went all the way through to the back, and from here I went across and then down to the centre back. Then what I did is I took diagonal sections, elevating every time, still pulling it to the previous, so I'm still building an element of weight to the shape, and then basically worked to the top of the ear, and then I came through the top of the ear. There's my disconnection. Okay, and what I did is I basically worked a triangular cutting line, a round cutting line, working on the base, all the way around. So I get this kind of soft, floating movement to the shape. And my length, I chose it sat around the jaw, okay? Then what I did, I worked on the base to the back of the ear. So technically here it's disconnected. Then I came through the other side, same sectioning pattern. But what I did on this side is I came slightly higher and slightly rounder on my shape. So elevating it every time. So it's actually slightly shorter through here. Can you see how short the layers are on the crown area, in this area here? Yeah? And that way, when I use my disconnection, I maintain extra length. Kita, it would be a good idea actually to focus, if you focus on the mirror there, you come round and look into there, you can really see the shape really well. You can see that movement, that soft layer through the top there. And then what I did is I came through the front with a triangular cutting line, taking all the hair nice and tight inside here, but keeping the exterior length long. I want it to feel like quite a commercial type look, but it makes it feel thicker, even though technically it's not. Yeah.
You get a lot of love, John. Everyone's saying it's looking amazing, looks beautiful.
I'm going to use a little bit more oil on the hair. Just literally run it on the front and back of your hands, okay? And then run it through the hair. And I'm not going to overly iron the hair because I want the hair to have a little bit of bounce to it. I just want to work a little bit on the external shape just so I can really check my line and make sure it's really perfect.
Chris saying you can see the Davines Lithuanian family in the background, missing you all, big love.
Yeah, they're all here. They've had 3 very full-on days, so they were a little bit delicate today.
They're falling asleep.
They're a little bit delicate today. They've been studying every night, working hard. Okay.
These whole sections for John.
If that's okay, I love that, thank you. So I'm not going to overly iron the hair, okay? Because I don't want it to feel too straight. I'm literally just going to iron the ends of the hair, just so I can check them, okay? So I'm going to elevate the hair and just literally iron just the tips. So nothing major, okay? Nothing major. I just want to iron. So I'm not going anywhere near the root because the root doesn't need to be ironed. Yeah, I'm just going to iron the ends, okay? And that way, what will happen is it closes the cuticle, and then when I work my line and I check my line, I can make sure that it's really clean for me, okay? And then all I'm going to do now is through the sides. Thanks, John. Got that? I'm just going to gently iron the hair backwards so it rolls around. Again, I don't want it to be overly ironed. I'm not trying to create a straight shape. That's not my goal. My goal is just to close the cuticles on the ends, just so it looks nice and smooth. Okay? There goes on. Thank you. Like all my lengths, for example, I'm just closing the cuticles. If you notice, I'm not taking loads of sections. I'm not trying to get the hair dead straight. I'm ironing it with a very slight bend and bevel to the hair. And that way all we've got a beautiful colour. Iveta, do we have the colour formulation for what we've done here today?
Yeah.
Would you mind... so guys, this is Iveta. Iveta has been with us for the past couple of days and also was here with Madeline doing a colour course over here with Madeline. So Iveta, would you do me a favour? You obviously colour hair as well, don't you? You
Yes.
cut and colour. Would you please explain to the audience what the colour system was, what it is we used, how we used it and so forth, please?
So originally we had Joanna from Lithuania coloring the hair, so I have the notes written. We had a consultation together and we decided that we want underneath to have a little bit more natural and have the soft blonde going through on the top. She had a color already, which it was a balayage that is being grown out. So we had some blonde ends at the back. So as Johnny was doing the disconnection, we did the same disconnection from the crown to the recession area, and we repigmented the hair. So we used the finest pigment, copper and gold, equal parts. We put it on the hair and dried it with the hairdryer in. And then for the root color and the ends, we used it Vibrochrome, 7.0 and 7.1 equal parts with 20 wool. On the top, Joanna, she did a root color that it was the same, 7.0 and 7.1 with 20 wool Vibrochrome. She did a bit of the balayage, so a bit of center section, because our model, she has side parting. She used a new color bleach with 5 wool, and for the toner she used it 12-1 with 20 wool for 20 minutes on wet hair.
Cool.
And that's it.
It's a beautiful colour.
Thank you for your honor.
Very soft, beautiful colour. Okay, so now I'm just basically refining my exterior shape. I'm using a chipping technique. I don't want it to be too solid. I want it to be quite soft, so I'm going in reasonably deep. Okay, I'm not trying to get a sharp, clean line. I'm trying to get a slightly broken line. If anybody has any questions about what I've done or what I'm doing, please ask me now, because I'm almost coming to the end of. Okay. I love it when that happens. Okay. So I'm just going to use a chipping technique. If you come behind me, Gidasmo, so you can see what I'm doing.
The other boss has joined, Anthea Inchenko, she's in the house.
Okay, so now with my area of disconnection, all I'm going to do now is tidy it up a little bit, do a little bit of soft pointing just to create this soft movement to the haircut. You can see every time you move the hair, you get this soft kind of finish to the shape. I don't want to put any sharp. I could put a solid little line in it and all this kind of stuff, but I don't need to, and I want it to feel very commercial, very soft. Okay. So, sections across the top of the head. On the hair up. Take that away. And before I start pointing, I'm going to make sure my technique is clean. So, diagonal sections going across the head. Okay, look what I'm doing now. I rest my comb first and then pull the comb straight through. Really elevate the hair. And make sure I get every single little hair. Up it goes. Make sure you connect it through. So I'm changing the angle slightly, so I'm really making sure I get every single hair. As obviously the hair, as you add more and more sections, so going back to, I think it was Carol or Jade, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's another question as well. It was Carol who was asking, thinking how to...
Well, now I'm kind of holding multiple sections in my hands, so it's obviously slightly harder to control those shapes.
You said any tips on how to section on wet hair, John?
Yeah, I mean the key really is to use a really good cutting lotion, because that way you get a little bit of a build-up, which helps the hair stick to it, just sticks to itself a little bit, which makes it super easy for you to check. And
you also said it's, have you got tips on helping, say for example, if the head is not growing in the direction that you want to be grooming it, have you got any tips to advise him on that?
Say that one more time, which bit?
So basically he was asking as well for some tips on if the hair's not growing in the direction that you actually want to groom it, have you got any tips for that?
Yeah, I mean ideally what you need to start to do, maybe it sounds a little bit like you need to listen to the natural growth patterns a bit more. If you're having to groom an area into a specific direction, and basically you're working against a growth pattern or you're working against a natural movement, what you need to think about is if you can't do it with obviously just product and good clean grooming, then you might need to use sectioning clips. If you don't want to use sectioning clips, then maybe you need to think about the zones that you're choosing, because the zones maybe might not be relevant to how the hair naturally wants to move. So you might have to change the angle of the zones that you're choosing in order for you to basically incorporate the hair in the direction that it wants to go, because if you cut it in a direction it doesn't want to naturally go, what you're going to find is the hair will always fight you. You'll never really win, and the customer or model, I mean, they're going to struggle with their shape. So if it's to do with you grooming, keep it damp and use a cutting lotion. That helps. Use clips if you have to, but more importantly, my advice to you would be think more about the angle of the zones you're choosing and the placement of the zones that you're choosing, because that has a massive difference in regards to how the hair will sit after it's been cut.
So when you're personalising now and using this pointing technique, John,
Yeah,
how do you determine how far to go into the hair?
that's a good question, John. That's a good question. So all I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to soften my cutting lines. I'm not trying to change the density of my line. I'm just trying to soften it so that way the hair moves a little bit more. So I'm only going in about, I'd say about half of my blade, just to loosen it up. And you can see now, if you look in the mirror, Kitas, you can see the shape is starting to naturally come alive for me. And it looks like a little layered kind of bobby shape. And every time you wear it, if you move it this way or that way, you get a really nice feeling to the shape.
We've got a question asking about the cutting motion again, so I'm just kind of...
You can see how full the hair looks. Even though the hair is quite fine, because of the choices of lengths, the hair feels and moves quite full, and because of the angles of the cutting line. So you can use a layering technique and make the hair look fuller and more bouncy. So don't always think that you have to graduate the shape to create like a fuller shape to it. You can simply layer the shape, and the choices of your cutting lines and the choices of the lengths make the hair look relevant.
It's beautiful, it just wraps around the head really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's got great hair to cut, if I'm honest. She makes my life easy.
Makes salon speed as well.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Coming to the end of my haircut now. Just going to do some last minute checking and then I'm done. If there's any questions, if any of the guys, Iveta, in the audience here, if any of them want to ask questions, they're more than welcome to ask me any questions before I finish. And if anyone wants to ask any last minute questions on Facebook Live, ask me now or forever hold your peace.
We've got a lot of beautifuls, a lot of nices, a lot of love.
All I'm going to do now actually is where the blonde hair sits on top of my shape, I need to soften some of the weight on my disconnection, just so when it falls down it falls a bit more of a shimmer to it. So all I'm going to do is, if I turn this way, Kitas, I'm going to take vertical sections which are on the verge of slightly diagonal. I'm going to comb the hair out, and you can see obviously my mechanical shape underneath, yeah, and you can see my disconnection falling on top. So all I'm doing now is I'm really going to go a bit deeper on this hair here.
Oh, G's in the house.
Mr. Graham,
Yeah.
seeing him next week. Can't wait. Looking forward to
Alice
catching up.
while I'm around. Give us a shout out, let us know how it went.
So I'm really, really softening this through, making sure my disconnection, you can see how obvious that disconnection is underneath, look. Yeah? So, this is a really nice salon-friendly look, okay? So, feel free to try it this week if you can. If a girl comes in with kind of mid-length hair, quite fine, wants something interesting, you want to have a bit of fun, try this haircut, try this shape. Just be mindful of the choices of length. Remember the sectioning pattern that I used, and I'm going to quickly draw it for you on that board behind in a second, and then we'll see you guys next week after that. So I'm just going to gently iron the tips just to close the cuticles, get a nice soft finish on the hair. I'm not trying to straighten the hair, hence why I'm not taking tiny thin sections. I'm just literally applying heat to close the cuticle. You can see I'm not doing my usual millisections and, you know, extra grooming. I'm not trying to get it straight. I'm just trying to close the cuticle of the hair, get a nice finish to the hair, just on those ends. And I'm done. Styling wise, to finish the product, my finishing product, sorry, is going to be, I'm going to put a little bit of hairspray in my hair. Okay, get rid of my hairy chest. Okay, so this is the end of my haircut. I'm going to loosen it up a little bit with the hairdryer. And if you look in the mirror, you see a really nice finish from the haircut. Yeah, it moves really nicely. You get a nice soft feeling to it. Every time I move it, it will feel different, and the haircut will come alive.
Any particular products in the damage range done that you like for heat protection?
Well, I use the blow dry product from Your Hair Assistant. By doing this, guys, I make sure I get no ironing marks, and I get the hair inside the haircut, so the hair moves nicely. And then product-wise, watch how you do this. This is a nice little trick for you. With the hairspray, we don't want it to be neat looking, we want it to be soft and movable. So what you do, hairspray, hairdryer. I'm going to use basically the stronghold hairspray. In fact, no, I'm not. It's got a medium hold. Yeah, there you go. Lovely. Okay, cool. Broken that. So I'm going to use a slightly stronger one then. Okay, and what you do with the hairdryer, you spray it into the hair. Once it's in there, let it dry, let it go a little bit crispy. With a paddle brush, just brush it through, and that way the hair feels a little bit dirtier. So when you put your hands through the hair will basically have a little bit of extra grit on the hair. And it will basically move nicely, but it will feel like a little bit like it's a bit older and freshly washed. Okay, good. 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 Okay. Jonathan was teasing me because apparently I say good all the time.
Well, it's actually your boss. Not your boss, your business partner.
Okay, good. Let me take this off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the haircut for you quickly, John, or in fact, if you don't mind de-hairing my model for me.
Yeah.
Let me come over here, Kitas. Okay, so the first thing we did is we put a parting, we took a zone, from here all the way across to the crown. Okay, so it was from the recession through to the crown, and then from the crown we went down to the centre nape like that. Okay, our sectioning pattern was triangular or diagonal, should we say, like this, and it went through to the top of the ear. Okay, so basically it was diagonal like this through to the top of the ear. Then we came back round this way, working from the front, literally to the top of the ear. So here it will be basically like that. And here it will be like that. Okay, other side, same principle. If anyone's got any questions about diagrams, now's the time to ask me. Okay, I didn't draw the other side of the head, sorry, but I can do quickly. Came across the top. And then what I did is I basically drew this hair here. I've directed everything back to that same point. So everything came back to this same point. On the back, everything went to the previous. So here, everything came to the previous. Like this. Let me work through the top again. Black, please, John. Perfect. Sections across the top like this. John, has anyone got any questions about the diagram?
Nothing's coming through, John.
Okay, good. Okay. It's going to be self-explanatory, that's a good thing. So again, go to the furthest distance. Thank you, John. Okay. Cutting line. Now technically, because I was working diagonal sections, my shape was slightly rounded and it was getting slightly longer, but ironically as I worked up the head it kind of flattened itself through a little bit like that. Okay. Then okay. Okay, and on this side, I worked to the previous like this. I'm doing this quite quickly, I'm sorry if it looks rough. And then again, I did exactly the same on this side, but on this side, as we know, my cutting line changed. Okay, and then miraculously, out of the blue, black pen, thank you. On this side, my zone of disconnection came across the top the same way. On this side, let me remember what I did. I worked diagonally through the back, which was like that. And I came all the way around like this to the top of the ear. And then my hairline through the front, I worked vertical sections like this, and I worked on the base. Here obviously I elevated each time. So I'm laughing because this miraculously came about itself, and my hairline's a bit too close to my ear, so I can't really draw the section through the front here. But listen, these things happen, you know, and we're live. And there ain't no Rolf Harris in the room. Okay, that's that. My horizontal shape through the back on this side basically got ever so slightly longer behind the ear, and then here it was round. Right, and then from this point here, it went shorter here to longer here, so the front length was about that long. Where's my ruler? The front length sat about there, 17, so we're going to go 17 up. I can't show true expansion because of the fact that it's too far this way. Really, my expanded shape should be over here somewhere, but at least this way it just gives you an idea, a rough idea of what the shape looked like.
It's a nice ruler, John. Where did you get that ruler from?
That's a secret. That's a secret. Everyone will find out soon. Okay. This shape actually sat over the top of the underneath shape, so it was slightly disconnected. Okay, good. Externally, my shape basically wrapped around and it came up behind the ear, and then obviously this area here was much longer, and this area here where there's no hairline kind of came round this kind of area as well, so all this hair basically dropped through here. So it made it look like it was a bob or bobby shape, even though technically it was anything but. Okay, that's good enough for now. So, if I can ask you to stand up for me, perfect. And if I can ask you, if you want to get your fingers actually inside your hair, move your hair around, and tell me how it feels. Should feel a lot lighter. Good. Look at me a minute. So, the haircut, the idea is that it moves, it has that sense of freedom to it. It does feel quite full, okay? It's a very commercial look. It's something that you could do tomorrow in the salon. I'm very lucky because I've got obviously a very, very pretty young lady. And if you move the shape around, it will always feel and have that sense of freedom to it. And I quite like it, if I'm honest. I like it when you see it like this. I like it when it has that sense of movement to it. So you can see all the layers come alive. And the freedom of the haircut. Good. Okay. So, thank you very much for tuning in. So thank you for tuning in to our Allilon Unplugged 17 in Lithuania. I will see you next Tuesday in London, and then the following Tuesday we will be in Parma, so I will see you in Parma the following Tuesday. Thank you very much for letting me cut your hair. Thank you guys for coming and watching, and thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time, okay? Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.